All right, so there's some massive stuff going on all over the world, and sometimes those massive events kind of eclipse things going on at home. And of course, sometimes those massive events other places in the world actually affect us here at home. And that is exactly what we will be talking about today's episode. We're going to be covering current events, and this is news from a prepper standpoint. We are looking at things as a community, and of course, your input is, of course, welcome. If there is breaking stories during this live show, make sure to put it in the chat or, of course, drop us an email, and we will get it into the show before the end. Right now, we're talking about NYPD increases security at synagogues after Iranian missile attack on Israel. So they're essentially saying they're on high alert here in New York because of what just happened over with Iran and Israel. To get into it, the NYPD has mobilized cops to a house of worship across the city Tuesday after Iran fired more than 100 rockets against Israel. Some say 180, some said 500. I think the total, they ended up at 180, 200. The enhanced development of police personnel, which has been in place for weeks, is set to extend through the whole high holy days, which will begin with Rosh Hashanah Wednesday and include October 7, the one-year anniversary of the on Israel, which sparked the current Hamas conflict. It says, quote, "We're already at a heightened alert," an NYPD spokesman said. "We have already deployed counter-terror measures around the city." Now, if you haven't noticed over the last month, they have actually had National Guard. They have had military in the subway. If you remember, just about a month and a half ago, we were talking about how military was in the subway, these kinds of things. And, of course, half the time, a lot of the media that covered it said, oh, no, they were just, they're doing it for this reason or that reason. But, I mean, when it really comes down to it, if you've got military all over a city, that's usually a sign that maybe there's something going on. There were hazmat teams all over the place. Now, some of those hazmat team sightings were because of an actual event. Maybe a printer company or something caught fire or something like that. But they have been doing drills. They've even done drills where they released an aerosol into the actual subway in New York to read how that aerosol traveled through the subways. So they've actually practiced for very specific bio events. And now they, of course, are loading up on law enforcement. So something is just primed to go right now. City residents are expected to see more heavily armed, quote, Hercules teams of the NYPD Emergency Services Unit and uniformed officers in marked vehicles at institutions, synagogues, foreign consulates, and public places like the Times Square and Central Park. It's Shava Leider lives in Israel but traveled to Brooklyn to worship at the Shabbat Lubavitch World Headquarters on Eastern Parkway in Crown Heights this week. Due to the holiday and then Sabbath, she will not be able to use her phone or the internet to communicate with family back home for 4 days. Leider is looking forward to being able to contact them Saturday evening. Says, quote, "We will pray everything will be okay," Leider said. "It's a very bad feeling with a war against a very evil enemy." Said she was thankful for the show of support from the NYPD. Also, a direct quote, "I saw 2 people from the NYPD and I said, God will bless you. I saw it's so important to them that we feel safe. It's a good feeling to know that they made this effort." It says, again, "I went to public school here. I went to college in Manhattan. I'm not terribly concerned." This was another person talking about this. Now, New Yorkers are tough they're already tough. First of all, if you know any New Yorkers, they go through so much. It is the big city for a reason. Everybody that I know from New York, I've never personally been, but I know a lot of people that are from New York, and I've met a lot of people from New York, and through this show, I have met hundreds, and a lot of them, they are a different kind of tough. I'm not saying they're tougher than anybody else in the country, but I will say this, they're their own tough. They deal with their own set of things. It's kind of like if somebody lives downtown compared out to the country, you deal with a different set of problems. When you live in the biggest city, I know how it is in our downtown area, which is nothing compared to the big city here in Washington. But compared to New York City, that's a different tough. These people have been through crazy stuff, including, of course, 2001, all of that, and now they potentially have something else on the radar. I highly, highly recommend anybody that's living in New York, even though you are tough, to keep your head on a swivel because something is going on. We're going to cover this and much, much more. There's been deployments all of this week. There has been massive attacks. There have been strikes at the port. We're going to cover all of this when we come back. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right. And speaking of current events, I want to send another prayer out to everybody that is in the Carolinas and in everywhere that is affected by Helene. As far as what keeps coming out about this is it's just a mess. A lot of folks are comparing it to Katrina. In fact, some are saying that it's 100 times worse. Some are saying it's 1,000 times worse. I don't know what the actual numerical value of how many times worse it is. But I don't believe, at least for the first day or two, that really people were realizing how truly bad it is. I have actually posted on X some different things that have been sent to me. One of them was a witness testimonial, essentially saying that you just can't get the breadth of it. There's death everywhere. That it's just horrendous. So it's anybody that's not there. We all have to really realize that a lot of everything around us is taken for granted. You go to North Carolina, you see not just a little area, not this, but entire parts of cities just destroyed, gone. We worried about, the bank or the pharmacy or the hospital closing nearby. Just imagine everything that you can see just destroyed. It's something that we don't experience unless it's a natural disaster here. Other countries in the world, they worry about getting, a missile in their backyard. We don't. We are very, I don't know. I think that there's a lot of people that are sort of unappreciative of how nice it is to live here sometimes. As bad as we have it right now, and as all the problems that we have right now, we do have it really, really good compared to a lot of places. And but right now, that is not North Carolina. That is not some of the places that are affected. And a lot of people do not believe exactly what is going on. And anytime that happens, you know that we're going to be talking about it for quite a while. Let's bring my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So I do want to touch on New York. So, Dex, first of all, we've covered all of the weird events and the weird videos coming out of New York because there's lots of law enforcement. There's lots of weird trucks, weird surveillance there. There's all sorts of things that are kind of popping up left and right. Why do you think that they're doing this? And then, by the way, we're in our community, we're probably going to hear people come up with the day, right? They go, on this day, bad's going to happen. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet where some YouTuber or somebody online says on the 4th, something bad's going to happen. It just seems like around this time of the year, there's always that the world's going to end kind of day. And then on that day, nothing happens. Right now, we've got a bunch of anniversaries and other things that are lining up right now. but usually those anniversaries never end up to be. They usually go for a surprise tactic, right?
Oh, most definitely. So look, the feds or DHS and all of them have said to the public, hey, we have had numerous bad guys, if you want to call them that, come into our country. They haven't been able to track them all. They've been able to track some. They've got percentages on what they think they've seen from just the people they've been able to touch that come across. But we know the people that have come across have been in massive numbers. So the likelihood that there are people within the U.S. that want to do harm or participate in this holy sort of conflict that is going on in the Middle East between these two different specifically different religions, and mind you, I know it's country against country, but it's also belief against belief at the same time. So when you layer that together and you put all that together, I think the biggest worry we have is, as you look at dates, and not putting dates out there, but one of the biggest holidays for Judaism, Rosh Hashanah, just started at sundown today through the 4th. You've got Yom Kippur coming up on the 11th, I believe, one of the holiest of their calendar. And so you look at that, you look at the conflict that's going on and the escalation that's happened in the Middle East between Iran and Israel. And it's no wonder why the West, because it's obviously the West is one supporting specifically at a greater level Israel, why the opposite of them, anybody that's supporting Iran, supporting anybody on the other side in that Middle Eastern conflict, would want to do harm to any of the Western nations. And a lot of times that harm is going to be non-conventional and in the ways that we've seen from organizations like that in the past.
Now, a lot of this is happening after, of course, terror fears across West as the grenades blast in Denmark's and Brit synagogues put on alert after an Israeli invasion of Lebanon. As we spoke about on the last short video, everybody is talking about how all of these missiles came towards Israel. There's a lot of events right now that are kind of eclipsing that. A lot of folks are talking about the port strike. People are panic buying this and that. Israel is now outside of the Strip going into Lebanon. That is a giant deal. You've got to look at all of the countries, and it's kind of reverse. If you were, say, in one of these other countries, in our adversarial countries, you're looking at it and they're probably covering it like Israel is now invading Lebanon, and they're looking at it from a completely different perspective. Just as, we would look at Russia invading Ukraine. It's pretty incredible that all of this is happening all at the same time, right before we pick our prez, which is going to be one of the most important days in history, especially this one. All of the experts, all of the sort of the top most respected people that have spoke about everything that's going on right now. The question was brought up in an interview with Eric Weinstein was, hey, every single day that we pick the prez, the media and everybody always calls it, this is the most important pick the prez day, right? Is this current one of the most, important? And truly, the circumstances are by far the most bizarre. The situation with this next pick the prez day are so way out of left field, it's insane. Because of all of the events that have happened, the attempts on the former prez, the way that media has been working recently, how social media, all of these things have been working on top of all of the wars that are potentially happening or happening right now. Not to mention all of the events, the fires, the strikes, the natural disasters, which some find unnatural. It's just unbelievable. Danish police said on Wednesday that they were investigating 2 explosions likely caused by hand grenades near Israel's Copenhagen embassy. This kind of brings you back. If you know your history, Dex, was it not a hand grenade that was thrown into a radio station? And that was and I'm not saying that this is, but that was actually a Fantastic Freddy. that kind of dealt with Germany, right? Germany dressed as Polish soldier and then threw a hand grenade into a German radio station. Was that it, or vice versa?
I don't remember the specifics of it, but there was a story that sounds like that. Yes,
it's like you just have these events, and now all of a sudden, New York is on alert. New York is now loading up, almost like it's martial law with these. What did they call them? Hercules teams.
It's not just Copenhagen, because also the CST, Community Security Trust, put out the same warning in Britain. So the UK is doing it too. So they're amping up security. They've got warnings across everyone there as well. So from Denmark to the UK to the US, and those are just examples we're giving you. But I think it's all the West pretty much has to do this.
Now,
all the alliance.
Now, usually people put out a day, like when they were expecting Iran to attack back, they're like, oh, well, they're going to do it on, well, I can't even pronounce the name of the holiday that was back then, within 24 to 72 hours. And they said, no, they're going to wait until the 11th for Live Fafant or whatever.
Tisha B'Av.
And of course, Tisha B'Av came and went. One thing, though, is the difference, I do see it, is if it's one of the most holiest days, if you do jade that day, if you mark that day forever, every time this entire people goes to celebrate one of their most holy days, they would also have to remember a horrible event. So there is that. So it would make sense, logical sense, if you're a terror group like that, or if you're the enemy, if you really hate the opposite people, to do something like that and really jade their highest, holiest day. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And then Iran's supreme leader tells West to get lost as Israel vows retaliation for missile attack. Dex, we just talked yesterday how Ali Khamenei, one of Israel's top officials, kind of said, yeah, well, maybe we should take out Ali Khamenei. I said then that he's probably going to snap back. Do you want to talk about what he said here?
Well, yeah, he's basically pointing the finger at the West, saying the reason all this is happening is because you're here. Like, get out. Like, if the West would get out and leave the Middle East alone, then they wouldn't have any problems. And but in a short sense, he's like, get out now. They want to rid the enemies, the evil. He urged the Western nations to cut their badness. He claims that they falsely claim to bring peace and tranquility to the region, speaking specifically of U.S. and some European countries. So, but in general, talking about the West or those that support Israel. So, you would expect it. These are two different sides. They're going to throw their rhetoric around and around. It's not like, the U.S. and Iran are in a love fest or anything like that. It's not like we're asking them to stop their nukes and we're sending over tons of cash and giving them billions and billions and billions of dollars, because that's happened and didn't work out really well either. So.
With all of the events that are happening, it's definitely smart to prep. Great comment by Gen X Josh. Says, I would like to encourage you all to start or keep prepping. I live in Western North Carolina, and it's rough here for those who didn't prepare. My wife and I are doing well. God protected the home, family, and animals. Gen X Josh, it's nice to hear that, especially from you. You've been here for years now. And Gen X Josh, thank you for your support. But not only that, thank you for letting us know that you're okay. There's other folks, other Fugel family members. There's at least one that off camera that a few of us have tried to contact. Nobody has heard from them. We might have actually lost a couple of Fugel family members. We don't know. And that's the thing. We won't know until the dust settles on this thing. It's just really, really sad what's happening there. If you hear the media is not talking about this. When this was Katrina, all of the media was covering it because they were all trashing George Bush. When Katrina happened, they would not let it down. They were trashing Bush every day. It was the front page story. Now they're saying, oh, no, well, they can handle with the budget we've given them. They don't care about these areas. And then get this. There are 42 zip codes the post office just canceled and said, hey, by the way, we're not going to be doing service to these areas. 42 zip codes in these areas. And these are also the same areas that are extremely important for, swing states. So this is really incredible what's going on right now. And that's why folks are just, they just feel so unnatural about everything. But I guess we will see. Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace if you haven't already. And we've been, again, mentioning this because if there's any kind of disaster, you want to have antibiotics and you definitely want to have your own medication. Especially if you're on a daily med, then I highly recommend going and checking out Jace Daily because Jace Daily, you can actually get a year's supply of your meds. Not to mention, in some cases, in rare cases, especially like Dex said the other day, without insurance, certain things you can actually get cheaper if you get a year's supply, if you get it in bulk, kind of like that. That doesn't always apply, but there are certain ones you might want to go check. As far as that goes, though, there's the most important part, though. Jace Case has those life-saving antibiotics. Without modern medicine, a cut on your finger can turn into a funeral. So this is a great, easy service, telehealth appointment through your phone, tablet, or computer, and talk to a board-certified doctor and get these delivered to your door. I mean, it's really, really awesome. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace, and remember that Jace Case, you can actually add things, even things that they hated and said that you should only give to horses. There's albuterol. There is iodine tablets if you're worried about that. You can add on. There's all sorts of add-ons. So go check it out. Again, marfooglenews.com/Jace, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right. And U.S. will allow Ukraine to hit deep into Russia, ex-envoy says. I mean, we knew this was going to happen. And from the first day that it was talked about, we knew it was going to happen. Kurt Vogler, a former U.S. special envoy to Ukraine under Donald Trump, maintains the U.S. will allow Ukraine to U.S. long-range weapons to Russia. He also says that NATO membership for Ukraine must be a part of a peace settlement. Vogler, I think that what's going on here is that either before or after the Pick the Prez Day, that the JB administration, without announcing it, will start lifting these restrictions, and they'll probably be making decisions on a case-by-case basis. It says if T-Man is put into place, he will very likely go much further. He would say to Ukrainians, here is a lend-lease package. You can borrow as much money as you need as long as you buy American equipment. And there are no restrictions on what you do with it, provided that it is time to end the war. When Putin is ready to end the war, it says you'll end the war too. He will try to pressure Vladimir Putin to end the war, saying, stop the war now. We give Ukraine weapons and bring it into NATO, so just stop the war. Now, a former prez has actually said, he goes, I will end all of this in less than 24 hours. That's a huge claim. And if he does, and maybe it's because he's like, they won't ever let me in anyways. They're probably going to try to, do something 5 or 6 more times before that happens. But who knows? Yes, I do think so. What would I like to see in the U.S. administration takes the view that it is a part of the settlement, part of the ending the war. We're definitely not there yet, but I think that we are getting there. What is more likely is that you have some kind of settlement or end the fighting, and then to make that permanent, you then bring Ukraine into NATO, and then there's going to be a permanent peace and a permanent deterrence. What the actual Ukrainians believe is going to happen is that T-Man is going to come in and he's going to basically negotiate and say, Ukraine, you need to give a huge chunk to Russia. Russia's going to say, hey, we're happy with that, and then everybody is going to stop. I just don't see this peaceful resolution happening unless there's some sort of ulterior motive that we can also see. Like, all of this goes back to peace, but in the making of that, all of a sudden there's some sort of huge deal or some way that people at the very top are going to make just ginormous amounts of bajillions of dollars. And it says, yes, America is the laggard here. The Americans are holding everyone back, and Germany is hiding behind the U.S. positions. So, along with the opinion, I believe that, yes, they are going to allow them to use all of that gear before that. And then the opinions of what they would end up doing with all of this, or who, depending on who wins, it's just, it's crazy. And then if allowed to hit deep into Russia, this thing's only going to escalate. So, I mean, really, Dex, we're looking at the next month. And it's like, if something ends up happening before that, I guess everybody's hoping that whoever's put into presidency next will end up trying to solve this and solve it really quickly. But this whole thing is messed up. So the opinion that they're going to let them to do it, I agree with that. I've said that since day one. When they ask for things, they're going to get it.
Well, and we've also recently seen Israel provide more support for Ukraine, which goes against, obviously, Russia. And why that's important to understand is what's happening in, say, Syria, where it's mostly dominated by Russian forces. And the fact that the conflict, that's one of the conflict areas that is now putting pressure on is. And it was just reported, like literally an hour or two ago, that a massive Israeli drone attack just targeted and destroyed a weapons depot, which many are claiming is a Russian weapons depot in Syria. It's along the coast. It just happened before daybreak today. So it's day is breaking there. So it was carried out by drones and warplanes, and then Syrian air defense and Russian forces responded about 40 minutes later. So that's escalation happening right now.
Yeah. Somebody said the war is about to go big now. Yeah. What else could stop what is coming right now? Like, if everything has failed up until this point, unless former Prez somehow doesn't make it to that day, which many people believe that he might not because of all the stuff going on, what would happen? We have a month. Think about this. We're going to see ginormous events in the next month. Exactly a month, right? When is it? November 5th? What is the day that at November 8th? Is that what it is? So almost a month and 6 days or something that everybody is going to drop their ballot in? Do you know, Dex? I know you're probably trying to confirm it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's the 5th.
The 5th. Okay. I got it right. I doubted myself. So we have a month and 3 days until something massive changes. Or nothing massive changes, and there's going to be massive events. I think either way this goes, we're not out of the clear by far. There's a lot of folks that think that if the former president wins, that we'll be in the clear. The problem is they're not going to stop going after the former prez. Even if he gets in, we're going to sit there for 4 years, or not even. He might not make it through the 4 years. They're going to sit there and try to do everything they can to get him out. We could get a year into that, and then he's replaced by somebody else because of a horrible thing, or because they find something or make something, whatever. Because he doesn't go along with the order of things. The Eric Weinstein interview, I'll mention again, the way that he puts it, that the illusion of choice. You're given a candidate on the left and a candidate on the right. But in reality, both candidates, up until recently, were candidates that were in politics, that were longtime politicians, and that if they got into power, even though they had different views on these issues, they would appease the corporations. They would appease the people at the very top. They would keep their pockets lined. Whereas T-Man, if he takes apart NATO, that's going to affect different countries. If he does all of this, I liked how he put it. he goes, so say if he does just completely take us out of NATO, there's extreme ends of this kind of stuff where there could be a bad side. Like say letting everybody speak whatever they want, the ultimate free speech, that there is no restrictions whatsoever. But then people could pass around and text each other or send each other, boom making plans or blueprints for biohazards or something. Think about that. Think about what true 1,000% unrestricted speech would be. It is a crazy kind of devil's advocate way of looking at it. It's kind of nuts. But I believe that they think that he will not appease the great order of things. And that's why it can't happen in their eyes. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Sarah, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeffrey Verkey. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, Robert Nelson. Thank you. I appreciate your support this week. And then South Korea unveils its most powerful missile, which could reach North Korea's underground bunkers. Dex, do you want to go over this?
Well, yeah. So, they had a parade this week, a military parade, and part of that they were putting out and demonstrating and showing these massive new missiles that they have. Obviously, some form of a bunker buster type weapon. But the point is, they don't have nukes. South Korea does not do nukes. They rely on the U.S. to have any sort of response if there was to be one to North Korea's nuclear use, but at the same time, they're trying to show that they have the capability of pushing and launching significant damage with, ballistic missiles that travel very fast and have a huge punch against North Korea, should North Korea do something like strike them with a nuke or strike them with another weapon. So, this ramp up of arms is expected. We've seen South Korea go even so far as to even discuss whether or not they should have nukes. They recently said they don't think they need them, but we've also heard others in their country say they do. But nonetheless, they invest heavily in military drills with the U.S. in preparation for what everyone sort of sees as the coming day of Kim creating conflict specifically with the South, probably at the behest of China at the time, maybe even in concert with Russia, but definitely as it relates to China potentially taking Taiwan. The ultimate distraction would be something happening in
North Korea,
crossing that DMZ from North Korea to South Korea.
The direct quotes too. President Yoon Suk basically says, my big buddy will come get you. If North Korea attempts to use nuclear weapons, it will face the resolute and overwhelming response of our military, the South Korea, and the South Korea-U.S. alliance. Basically, it will not only face our military, but you'll face our buddies as well, the U.S. That day will be the end of the North Korean regime. The North Korean regime must abandon this delusion that nuclear weapons will protect them, Yoon said. So those are some big words. Basically, they're talking with the 8-foot, monster of a guy right behind him, the bouncer dude right behind him. But here's the thing with this is I find it strange that they're talking about this. You watched our show about a week and a half ago. Do you remember they showed Kim Jong-un sitting there looking at satellite photos of South Korea? Are they putting it into our brain not only about nuclear weapons, because many believe that tacticals are going to be used soon here, that there will be a nuclear use here soon, and that nuclear use will be the trigger of a bigger weapon. I have said a lot of times, and up until this, the whole Israel escalation, I have believed that North Korea would be that trigger. It still could. Israel and Iran could get really, really fired up and it still not trigger all of this, and then watch this happen. This happens, then it just sets off. That would be yet a second step, third step, fourth step, China, this, that, Venezuela taking over Guyana. But it's almost like we're being set up for that exact thing. North Korea attacking South Korea. That puts us in a whole other war. We are in a direct alliance with South Korea. And if they nuke them, that means we nuke North Korea? I mean, that's proportional. So that's a scary thought. And we just keep getting set up that North Korea is going to surprise attack South Korea. Oh, and the fact that U.S. and South Korea did a hypothetical drill that North Korea essentially surprise attacked them. And then a few days after that drill, North Korea basically changed their laws to essentially say they could surprise attack them. So it's just the whole messaging there. It just seems like if there was a plan, if you do believe there is a group at a table deciding things, that it seems kind of obvious what's happening. But China's Xi tells Putin ready to expand ties. How do you expand no limits? Again, pretty crazy to even think that. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday told Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin he was ready to, quote, expand cooperation as the two leaders exchanged congratulations on the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations. Xi said China was, quote, ready to join Putin to constantly expand all-round pragmatic cooperation between our two countries. Permanent good neighborly friendship, comprehensive strategic coordination, and mutually beneficial cooperation, Xi told Putin. Putin has looked to the Chinese leader for support since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, with the allies boasting trade to record highs as Moscow fears heavy economic sanctions from the West. Moscow and Beijing both rail against Western hegemony, particularly what they see as U.S. domination of global affairs, and declared a no-limits partnership shortly before Russia launched its offensive. Xi is set to attend a meeting of the BRICS countries in the southwestern Russian city of Kazan this month. Now, this is this month. This is in October. Why it's important that they go to a BRICS meeting is because BRICS is this huge, massive thing that's staring us in the face. If the other side of countries, if our adversarial countries are all thinking at some point we want to be number one, we want to put the Western countries where we are right now, it would be done, or at least their plan would be to do it with a system like BRICS, a new currency, maybe a new gold-backed currency, something like that, and most definitely probably a war with that as well. So if he's going to be meeting all of these people involved with the BRICS, major decisions are going to be made. That also means he's going to be face-to-face with a ton of these countries' leaders. So they can go in a secret room off to the side and they can push the button on something, they can sign something, they can take it to the next level. Dex, do you agree? This sounds like they're about to take another step forward.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's about what's going to happen with the next steps of conflict. It's not what's their partnership going to be. They've already got a no limits, but there's no more they can really do. The question is, let's get together and plan out how we're going to take on the other half of the world.
Yeah, it's the next step forward into whatever's coming next. That's why that BRICS meeting is really important, and it's held in Russia. I wonder, with the international court, are some of the BRICS countries have the ICC? They have no rules against them going to Russia, right? It's just Putin going to their countries. BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So all of those should be there. And then Diddy hires a new lawyer who was also representing his jail roommate, Sam Bankman-Fried. The connections just keep getting wilder. So we talked about how they were in the same jail. Now they have the same lawyer, which it's just it's incredible how many of these people are all connected in some which way. Sean Diddy Combs is appealing a judge's decision to keep him locked up in a Brooklyn jail ahead of his trial on trafficking. The new lawyer he picked up is also representing his roommate, notorious fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried. Court filings show that Combs has hired Alexandra Shapiro, an experienced white-collar Appleite lawyer who clerked for former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Shapiro is representing Bankman-Fried on appeal after the FTX and Alameda Research founder stuff, and that was sentenced to 25 years in prison. She filed a 102-page brief to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals last month, arguing that the trial judge excluded evidence from the case in a way that stacked the deck against Bankman-Fried. Bankman-Fried has been living in the Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center as his appeals processes play out, and before he's moved to a more permanent facility. By the way, I wouldn't put it past for Bankman-Fried to also disappear or to somehow break out. If he had that much money on the outside, you would think if he knew at some point he might get in trouble, he might set up some sort of plan. Watch him and Diddy, like Thelma and Louise, somehow get out and drive off a cliff or something. Combs is being detained in the same facility after two judges rejected his $50 million bond offer, with one finding it would be too dangerous to allow him to remain free because he may cause violence or tamper with witnesses, which now they're saying that there's like 120 victims that have stepped out. I posted yesterday on Twitter that the main lawyer for all of these new, or the law group, Ava Law Group or something it is, this guy did a press conference and saying, we have tons of celebrity names. These are very high and powerful names, and we have a list. It's a very detailed list. It's a very powerful list. And we're going to release those names. Not yet, but at some point we will release those names. To me, that's just so scuzzy. I basically said, I said, like, people are calling this law group a bunch of heroes. I saw comments saying, oh, these guys are so amazing. That's a law group. That's the equivalent of an ambulance chaser, only they are chasing victims of Diddy. Who knows how they even found these people? Did they put out an ad like, were you essayed by Diddy or something? Like, how did they even find these people, or did they find them? How did they get so many of them all at the same time, which is kind of crazy, right? By saying that, oh, well, we have this list, we're not going to put it out yet, but we are going to put it out at some point, that's basically giving every celebrity that knows they're on that list to pay them off to not be on that list. That's scuzzy to me. If that was like a true law group, they would be doing it for free, no fees, and again, not like anybody would, or at least do it for fees, but they're doing it to get that money. Get this, once they get paid, they're then going to, whoever's on that list, they're just going to scratch them off of it. That's disgusting. So all of these people that are involved with this whole Diddy thing, it should be very clear to the people that thought all of this stuff was just one crazy theory a few years ago, that yes, almost all of this stuff that the internet has been talking about in the dark corners of the internet, almost all of it is true. One thing I didn't understand for the longest time is, why is it all of the rich people do all of this disturbing stuff? And I kind of thought maybe it's because when you get so rich and you can have everything, that maybe you get bored of that thing. It's kind of like somebody said the other day, they were like, well, men that are like super attractive, like the, prettiest models, basically she said they're always gay, right? Why is it that the most attractive, best catches of a man, are always gay? Or that was their opinion. Well, it's kind of like in this case, right? Why are the rich always this perverted? Maybe because they have everything. And with the guys, maybe they have all the women they want, so they don't want women or something, right? Well, with this, why are the rich people like this? And I think it's another way. It's because you don't get that rich, that the system does not let people that does not go along with their system, that they don't have dirt on, or that you don't join their club. And that club, which a lot of people thought it was all fake, is evil, like straight up real evil. You either have to be evil or you have to be controllable to get that rich. And if you're that rich, you're doing this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. The U.S. politicians but politicians around the world, the corruption is just rampant. And it all revolves around money, and money is evil. It's only going to get crazier from here. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. If you haven't already, there is an amazing device that can actually get you home to your family after multiple EMP strikes or even a Carrington level event from the sun. This will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. Again, this is a device that you can put in your car in less than 10 minutes. You don't have to be a mechanic. Just red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground or a part of your chassis, then bolted into an open part in your engine chassis there, and then boom, you're done. And then you will be protected by the same company that's helping agencies like DHS and DOD and the DEMSO team help protect the Texas grid. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. This will also protect all of your devices, your generators, your trucks, motorcycles, pretty much anything you can name against a non-nuclear EMP or a device that can fit in a bag that DHS and FBI, all of them are warning about. The warnings about these handheld devices and things like that, that's what I've talked to more recently. A lot more people are worried about because of all of the folks that have come over in the last few years, that they believe that a certain chunk of those are sleepers and that they could and do have access to the stuff to actually make these. What's stopping them? That, Dex, that's something we really haven't talked about. I almost want to do a video on this. How crazy easy it is to actually make the non-nuclear, and not say how to make it, but the fact that they can get all of these things above the board. They don't have to go to some cartel dealer or something to make a non-nuclear EMP.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. Electromagnetic pulse, the causing of that to happen and causing the electronics, or more specifically wire, to induct energy, which then causes a surge into whatever's connected to that wire. Wire being the easiest thing to induct. Yeah, you can. They have, and they've had it for a while, the ability to do it. We've seen people. You've probably seen videos where people have tested. What does an EMP look like right up against a device? And yeah, you can fry a phone with an EMP if you put it right up against it. But the fact that they've got this built now in a way that you can use it and maybe affect a 1 mile radius or a 5 mile radius, and it's basically an undetectable. We're not, if somebody's walking around with a nuke in a suitcase, that's detectable. You can pick that up. There are devices that we have that can look for signatures of that. But this non-nuclear EMP they're talking about, it's not new. It's been around. It's just becoming more readily available in the bad guy scenario, so to speak, the T cells, if you want to call them that. That's what people need to be worried about. And when we see one of those happen, and some have suggested it's been done before, we'll probably see it in Israel real soon, and we might even see it in the West as it relates to anywhere, whether it be in Europe or the U.S., as it relates to what those groups are doing. They came out and said they have it. They came out and bragged that they will use it. They came out and said, it can fit in a backpack and they can bring it anywhere they want. And they also said they can, affect a 5 mile radius. I think it might be a 1 mile. It just depends on how they, what their positioning is when they make the EMP happen, that pulse. So we'll see. But yeah, it's something that can be protected against it. EMP is it's the electrons that get energized through the induction on the wire, and that over voltage is what fries everything. And if you have the ability to short that out faster than it can come in, which is what's the great thing about an EMP shield, the speed, that's the difference, is that it's able to actually shunt that power away faster than it can come in, so therefore it can protect anything that might be connected to that wiring system, like a car or your home or a building, etc.
Well, somebody said that money is not evil, it's the love of money. I guess you could say that, but then somebody else said that they have a lot of evil stuff printed on the money. No, I think that, I don't know. That's a good way to say it. You're right. because it's kind of like saying a weapon, right? The weapon is taking lives. No, it's the person that's holding the weapon. So, yeah. And then, again, if you do want to protect yourself, it's going to be a smart move. It's something that you won't need until you need it. And when you do need it, it's definitely going to make a huge difference if you can't get home or if you can't leave to bug out. Marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARV. Ads like that help us survive. Again, we are not treated equally. So thank you guys for doing so. All right. And then Bank of America says widespread outage is nearly fixed. This is not what FoogleFam, this is not what X is saying. There are a ton of people that still have no access to their banks. There are even some where this is overlapped that have Verizon service that is still out. Their phones are bricked. So they've got SOS on their phone, and even with others, they're going to the computer and they cannot log into their bank accounts. That's freaking scary. And that's like 2 out of the 3. It's almost like, so if you're at home and if your power goes out, your internet goes out, and your cell phone gets bricked and it says SOS on it, you probably know that it's and your car doesn't start, then you really know you need to get the hell out of there or bug in, right? But it's like they're doing almost all of them. In our case, the internet, which is through cable through the wall, at the exact minute went out as our cell phones, and all of them on 4 different plans. 4 different plans, including one that was not T-Mobile, one that was AT&T. All of them went out in the same time. I've had my internet go out a billion times. I've had my cell phone go out a few times. I've never had both. That same event that happened in Washington, I said, man, this really seems like a test. That happened with T-Mobile. That same test just happened with Verizon. And I say test because I'm like, why is the same exact thing happening? And both times the FCC said, oh, we're going to investigate. Are they going to investigate like they investigated Maui? Oh, overgrown vegetation. Yeah, okay. So, Dex, did I send you the email of the Fugel family member that said that they have no phone service? They're at now basically they just bought a phone that they could use with their cable internet because they had the phone plan engaged. So they had to buy a home phone for the first time because their cell phone's a brick for the last 3 days, and that their bank account, they can't even access it. Did I send you that?
No, I don't have that.
Darren?
But yeah, that's miserable.
Isn't it?
I mean, it's horrible. Being in the dark, having no roof, having no water, having no communication with anybody or being able to, understand what's going on, having no insight to your own finances to even try to help you get out of the situation you're in has got to be the most horrific feeling. One of the most horrific feelings, and I know a lot of people are stuck in that right now.
Wow, yeah, it's freaky, that's for sure. Celtic Warrior, I want to thank you for your support this week. Scott Dixon, Craig Alicious, Carol, thank you so much for your support this week. M. St. G, Olga Turan, Danish Girl, Faith Parent, hope to see you tonight. Inquiring Minds, Old Combat Vet, Carlton Sutton, of course, Julie Bratcher, thank you. Stephen McMahon, Genius by Birth, thank you for your support this month. And, of course, this year, Jeff B., Nathaniel Williams, Chime On Pam, Tony Durkin, thank you, everybody that has shown support today, or this month. So I also want to point out over on DLive, thank you guys. Thank you for everybody that has just kept that family alive over there. Thank you to Chance for not only holding it down in the mod arena, but Kimbria, Pocoloco, Laura Griffith, Vault, thank you for being there as well. Now, you guys have to go check out your the friends list over at marfooglenews.com/friends. You can actually find that right on our website, the third tab over, because you have a lot of really great people. Chance is an author over on Amazon. As I've said many times, you guys got to go check out his books. Optical Gem, CJ Blaze, Bones has got his TikTok rolling. He's growing very fast over there, so go get on there before you miss the train, before he gets too famous. And then Jammer 1, Lisa R. Hall. We've got Rip Curl, another great creator. RGL Harris, Ilea, amazing person. Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho Kermit. Make sure to go subscribe to her. And Wages is covering all of the solar events. So again, go check it out. And then thank you, everybody that has made it tonight. I appreciate all of you for stopping in. Thank you, and thank you to Steve. I appreciate becoming a member, and everyone that joined us tonight. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And I believe it is time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. What is it called? I'm trying to think. Maybe should I look up the wiki article? It's a shoutro.